So, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the 1 Point Safety Show, a bonus episode this week. I'm your host, Scott Hartley, and I'm joined by the man on X who gives us the hottest of hot takes. It's Hot Take Freddie. How are you, mate? You all right?
I'm good. What's up, Scotty?
Yeah, I'm all good, man. Thank you for joining me back again. I appreciate you being with us. It's all good, man. It's all good. We're bonus episode this week. Me and Freddie's just gonna get we're gonna get Freddie's hot takes on the draft. We're gonna break it all down, what we did, how we've gone through a few undrafted free agents as well, and yeah, we'll take it from there. So overall, then, Freddie, what was your thoughts on the draft then?
Oh, I thought we had a great draft. Who doesn't think we had a great draft? National
Some people
media
out
thinks
there.
we had a great draft, and they never give us credit for anything ever. It was really refreshing to go through and see all the draft grades. I mean, because usually, over the past, 10 years or whatever, we'll just take 10 years. We've usually graded somewhere like C plus, B minus to a B, maybe B plus, but somewhere right in there. And most people were giving us a grade around, A plus. We didn't reach for anybody. I don't feel like we did reach for anybody. I really like the approach. It's the approach that we expected. It's the approach that we wanted, but we're still kind of, just because we're so used to not getting what we want and the organization saying one thing and doing another. But it really feels like everything is, everything. Adam Peters is doing everything the way that we expected and the way that he said he would be doing it. So it's very on brand for the new front office. I think that Adam Peters and Lance Newmark did a great job, and I feel like everybody's on the same page. You don't get the sense that AP's just cooking and Dan Quinn's just kind of there. I think it was all a team effort. But of course, Adam Peters had the final say and everything, and I don't think he's afraid to do that. I like the way that we drafted, especially with all of the holes that we have. Even of course, we want to win now, but this team has historically reached and drafted for need, which is difficult to do right now when you have so many needs. In our roster, he's turned over so much of it, and there's so many holes. There's so many players on one-year contracts who aren't going to be here, who are just kind of placeholders who can keep us competitive, but make no mistake about it, a lot of these players that were brought in on one-year deals, they're not here to stick around. He said that he wanted to build this team through the draft, so he's doing exactly that. And yeah, I mean, the team, it's full of holes. I mean, we're holier than a priest made out of Swiss cheese, So it is what it is. But I like that they didn't reach, and we got some really good value. I know that the Johnny Newton pick was a surprise. I mean, it was a surprise to me and a surprise to a lot of people. When you go and examine it, I mean, it's a great pick any way you look at it. And John Allen's got 1 year left on his contract, doesn't have any guaranteed money. Now, I do think he's going to stick around. I don't think he wants to leave. And by all accounts, the new regime really likes him. He's a leader here. He's been a stalwart here in DC. So we have a wealth of riches there on the D line, but you got to think 1, 2, 3 years ahead, all of that. Deron Payne and John Allen, they're both getting older, so you can never have too many good linemen. I think all of the teams that play really well know it's important to invest in the trenches, both on the offensive and the defensive side of the ball. And I do think that it's great. Dan Quinn likes to move players around. He likes to mix things up with his blitz package. I think we're going to see some cool stuff with the D-line. I'm sure he'll have a NASCAR package in there too. Maybe put Deron Payne on the edge. There's all kinds of different things that you can do. So I'm excited about that. It'll help with the D-line rotation. And with Johnny Newton, man, I mean, he was the byproduct of, we had so many, 10 tackles went in the first round, something like that.
Yeah, it was
I think
wild.
The top 15 picks were all offense. There wasn't a single defensive player until, in the mid-late teens. So he was the byproduct of all of that being pushed into the second round. I mean, in any other draft, he would have went, middle of the first round, maybe a little bit higher. I mean, he was the second D tackle, I think, taken, and he went
off the board,
and he went in the second round versus Byron Murphy the second. And a lot of people had him graded as either the number 2 or even the number 1 on a lot of people's boards. So the value we got, he was an absolute steal. So we didn't trade we didn't trade back up into the first, but we still ended up with what amounts to 2 first round picks. And I know a lot of people are upset that we didn't get an offensive tackle in the first round, but I think Adam Peters was very strong in his uh, um, his
Yeah, I know where you're going. I know where you're going. The way
he's very strong in his philosophy. There he goes.
Yeah.
In his philosophy that he wasn't going to mortgage the future if it didn't make sense. Once Amarius Mims was taken by the Cincinnati Bengals, there, I mean that was pretty much it. It's not worth giving up what you have to give up to get back in there. We weren't going to trade far back up to get a guy like Tyler Guyton or or something like that. So to me, it makes a lot of sense. And I mean, we were able to move back. We ended up with 3 second-round picks. I mean, it's just, it's fantastic. So I don't care that we made that trade with the Eagles. I really don't care. And I really do feel like, Howie Roseman gets a lot of credit for what he's doing over there with the Eagles, and I think he's done a good job. But I don't think that he's the draft wizard that people make him out to be. He's really not. He makes good trades, free agency, but I don't think he's a draft whiz, and I think eventually it's going to catch up to the Eagles, and it's starting to catch up with them even now.
Yeah, I agree with that. We'll start off strong. I mean, I agree with you. I was looking forward to hopefully trading back into the first round. A very late one for me. I stayed up till 5 a.m. watching the whole of the first round, which is just wild.
Yeah, props to you. I mean, all you guys overseas.
We all do it.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah, but it was going back and forth. But as soon as we got to probably, as you said, pick 18, it was then a case of, right, well, the offensive tackle's dead here. We're not going to trade back in at all into the first round, especially as you said for a Guyton or somebody like that coming out. Interestingly enough, I know that calls were made. You know what I mean? This is from what we read in the media that they were trying to trade back in, but the price was too high. And then when you look at the way we've traded back out of the 40th pick to then pick up that extra second round, fantastic trade by all accounts. We'll go through it individually one by one. Your guy overall was Jaden Daniels. I've heard you talk about him and wax lyrical about Jaden Daniels. I'll be honest with you, I was a 60-40 between Jaden Daniels and Drake May, but for me, I didn't really care who it was. I had to say, you know what, it's their decision. Let them take who they want to take, and we'll trust the process. I think all 6 of these quarterbacks are going to have pretty good careers. Maybe Bo Nix and Penix don't necessarily work out as starters, but I think the other 4 will have a very good career in the NFL no matter what. It was a tough quarterback class, but we've got our guy Jaden Daniels it is, and we've got to stick to that, and I'm happy. I think we've all as fans have to be happy with what we've got. What was your thoughts on Jaden Daniels then?
Oh, I was ecstatic like a lot of other people that he was drafted. I was on pins and needles. I thought it was going to be Jaden, and a lot of people thought it was going to be Jaden, but until the commissioner said it, we're still like, is it going to be him? Is it going to be him? And I love that afterwards we found out, Adam's not stupid. He's like, yeah, he was our top guy from the beginning. We were just doing our due diligence. And I put some stuff out day of the draft just in case, just in case crazy happened. That's why I was putting out the JJ McCarthy tweets. And then I feel like I was justified with that, because then come to find out, if you believe what you hear, and I have pretty reliable sources coming from John Keim saying that it was never Jaden or Drake May, it was Jaden or JJ McCarthy. And that was kind of where I was at too. I would say I was 80-20 Jaden JJ. I don't get me wrong. I don't think it would have been the right move if they went JJ, but if they did go JJ, I would be like, okay, trust, these guys are the professionals. These guys get paid for it. I would be cool with it. I really did not want Drake May. Drake May scares the shit out of me. So, and hey, listen, maybe he'll be great, but he scares the hell out of me. And as far as the quarterback draft class, it's such a crapshoot. I don't think 4 of them are going to have great careers. I think what's going to happen is there's going to be 1, maybe 2 who are good or great. Maybe Jaden Daniels ends up being the elite guy. I mean, that would be best case scenario. Yeah. I think 1 or 2 are going to bust real hard because the expectations are so high. That's how I feel about Caleb Williams. I mean, I think Caleb Williams has He has the biggest bust potential just because the expectations are so high. If he is not elite and great, if he ends up just being okay and kind of good, that's not meeting the expectations. I mean, they're just so high. I can't remember the last time the expectation had been so high on a quarterback, but that's the Patrick Mahomes effect. Because if you look,
Trevor Lawrence, maybe
he was but this is the thing though. He was the Patrick Mahomes of college football, and that's what everyone's looking for right now. But the thing is, you're not going to find another Patrick Mahomes. You know what I'm saying? It's like when we go back to the early 2000s, what are teams looking for? Oh, they're looking for the next Peyton Manning. Now we're looking for the next Tom Brady. We're looking for the next Aaron Rodgers, so on and so on and so on. And Pat, I mean, he's in a class all of his own. You can talk about the top quarterbacks, top young quarterbacks right now. I would talk about, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, but he's been in the league for a little while. Players like that. Trevor Lawrence, last year the Jags kind of imploded down the stretch there, but I don't put all that on Trevor Lawrence. But as far as this new wave of quarterbacks, and obviously Patrick Mahomes, he's right at the front of all of that, leading the pack. But with quarterbacks, like I said, man, this first round draft, I mean, I think you're going to end up with one, maybe two at the most that are great. Only one of them is going to end up being elite. The rest of them are going to kind of wash out. I think you always end up with one or two that are like a huge letdown. I think that Bo Nix and Drake May have the biggest potential just to be big letdowns. But Drake May, like I said, I don't know. He scares the hell out of me. There's a whole lot you need to fix and clean up. Now, the good thing about Drake May is I don't think he's going to start right away, and that's something that he really needs. He really should not be starting right away. And then Michael Penix, I mean, he's going to start when he's 40 years old.
Yeah, so no, it's crazy.
That whole situation, I don't know. And maybe they know something we don't know. If Michael Penix ends up being a great player and, the Kirk Cousins thing doesn't work out, but if it doesn't work out, then you're wasting all that guaranteed money. You got him on a 4-year contract. I mean, I don't understand. And the reports came out that Kirk Cousins was thrown for a loop, but I kind of harken back to, hey, Kirk Cousins got a taste of what Robert Griffin got in 2012 when all of a sudden they turn around and draft Kirk in the 4th, which come to find out, I mean, that's the guy who Mike Shanahan wanted anyway. But it's just it's a tough spot to be in. But the Michael Penix thing, I just don't know. And I don't like lefty quarterbacks. So
not when you paid $180 million for a QB in the
doesn't make any sense. It's like, hey,
no.
I just bought this Maserati.
And they need edge. They're desperate for edge as well, which makes me think, what are you doing? But I'm with you. I bought a Maserati and I can't fill it up. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, right. It doesn't make any sense, right? I just bought this Rolls Royce, but I'm gonna buy a Cadillac too. I'm just not gonna drive it. I mean, I don't.
Crazy. Absolutely, man. That was the shocker of the entire draft for me.
The funniest part was The funniest part was in the press conference with Raheem Morris, and I don't know the name of their GM over there, but they were talking about Kurt being blindsided, and it was like, and Kurt found out while you're on the clock, and both of them just sitting there, and they just said, "Yes." It's like, okay.
It's their team now. It's their team now. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. That's how it goes. So we've gone to round 2. Then we'll move on to round 2 as we discussed before we got on here. Pick 36, Johnny Newton, defensive tackle out of Illinois. I trust Dane Brugler. I trust what he says. I love his write-up on the beast. He had him as 28th overall on his board, down as a dependable 3-tech who's going to make an absolute monster of this D-line. I mean, interesting pick, not the pick that everyone thought it was going to be. Obviously, we were thinking, going to try and look for a tackle somewhere along the line. But this is pure value. This is value. That's what you have to go by here, Freddie.
Yeah, with the tackle thing, I feel like if we would have drafted a tackle at 36, we would have been reaching big time. And we wound up in that position at pick 36 where you just got to go BPA. And Johnny Newton he was such a good value, should have been a first-round pick. If it would have been in a different draft, he was a product of what ended up happening with the tackle class, with so many tackles being taken in the first round and just offensive players. Because you have offensive tackle, you have wide receiver, you have these skill positions that most teams are going to value more than your defensive line, and no one had that huge pressing need for it. I mean, we don't have a huge pressing need for it, but yeah, in any other draft class, he would have gone probably middle teens, maybe. I mean, I don't know if he would have went top 10, but he would have went high. And for the value, being able to pick him up at pick 36 when he was probably the second or maybe in the best defensive tackle in the draft. I mean, we'll see in a few years, right? It was just tremendous value. And I love the way that Adam Peters and Lance Newmark are approaching this. And they're not just looking at this year. They're looking at the next year and the next year and the next year. There's so many things you have to take into account, salary cap and all that. You want to keep as many good young players on rookie deals as you can. And you have to be looking ahead to the holes you're going to fill out. I mean, Jonathan Allen, he's a great defensive tackle. He's got 1 year left on his deal. There's no guaranteed money. I do think he wants to stay here. So, and the new regime, by all accounts, they love him. So I don't believe the narrative that he's going to be out of here. I think he's going to stay. If anything,
I don't know.
I mean, if anything,
a hot take from me, I think he might end up. Might end up with a trade for Ayuk, possibly.
I feel like
then it's a lot of money to pay Ayuk. That's the problem.
Well,
or is there a starting left tackle that's
it's
out
a lot
there
of
somewhere?
money. It's a lot of money, but at the same time, does San Francisco want to trade for an aging defensive tackle? You know, do they want to do that? And then you just got to turn around and re-sign him anyway. So, yeah, I don't know. I also don't know if they want to get fleeced by us again, like they did with the Chase Young trade. So.
True. Yeah, that's very true. But yeah, overall, a fantastic player for me. I think that's a great pickup. It's as you said, looking into the future. I like what they did. He's a brawler, absolute disruptor. And yeah, he's going to be around for a very long time. I also think it makes people uncomfortable within that room. I don't think we had comfort. I don't think that's the right thing to say, but we had John Ridgway. We had, Fedarian Mathis. I mean, mate, you are out of here because what are you giving? What are you giving us? And it's just, he's not giving us what we expect from a second round pick. Injury history doesn't play its part either. Maybe again, they know something we don't, but we'll see when we get to training camp. But there's too many people trying to get into them roles to be filled. So I think one of them two, either John Ridgway or Fedarian Mathis are out the door for me, unfortunately. And maybe practice squad. Don't know, but if you put in a former second round pick on a practice squad, that isn't good. Yeah. That is not good. But we've seen it before. We've seen first round picks traded the year after. So, it doesn't always work out. And Big Phil doesn't look like it's worked out for me. But Johnny Newton, I'm very excited by. My favorite pick of the entire draft, this is Scouse's boy. He's had him on pretty much every mock draft and has been talking about him a long, long time. Mike Sainstrill, I think is how you pronounce his name. Cornerback out of Michigan. Looks like he's going to be playing that big nickel. Or Buffalo nickel, as it's been known in the past. He can tween in between the safeties and the corners there. But yeah, slot corner. A lot of people have said as well, playing that nickel role. He looks like he's going to be a worldie. This is a great pick on the board at 50 as well. I mean, I don't think he'd have lasted another spot. I think the Steelers were willing to take him at 51, and we just snuck in and went, "Yep, we'll take him at 50." What are your thoughts on Mike Sainstrill?
Oh, it's tremendous. Yeah, and he might end up being the best value pick of the draft. I mean, he could end up being, with the exception of Jaden Daniels, we hope, could end up being the best player in the draft class, which is great. And isn't it great that there's sort of a debate? You're wondering who will be the best player of the draft class? Because I don't think we've had that in a long time.
It's crazy.
He fits right into the mold of the type of players that Adam Peters and Dan Quinn want. He was a leader of the best defense in college football, team captain. I've watched some of his interviews. I mean, he's fantastic. He's professional. He's a well-spoken guy. He's going to come in. He's going to put his head down. He's going to make plays. I can't say enough good things about him. Yeah, I feel like getting him there again, tremendous value. He's going to be a great nickel corner. That's where he's gonna make his money. An interesting thing was when he came to Michigan. At first, he was a receiver. He had a choice. Coach Harbaugh. asked him, he's like, do you want to play on the defensive or the offensive side? He ended up on the offensive side. And the only reason why he moved over to the defense was because there was a need there. And can you imagine for a player in that position to say, oh yeah, that's where the team needs me. I'll go play on the defensive side of the ball. So it's kind of cool. I mean, he could play on the offensive side. I don't know if we're going to use him in any offensive packages, but
I hope not.
it would be cool. If you want to go way back to, because he's such a fantastic athlete, but if you want to go back to like when we took Champ Bailey, way back when, he caught a couple passes on offense just because of his tremendous athleticism. But you don't really generally want to get in the business of people playing on either side of the ball. But
no, and I think I think this is going to be a fantastic pick, no matter what we look at it.
But he's a grinder, high motor guy, high character guy. I think it's really cool too how Adam Peters, the way that he's building this team, has sort of married, the blue chip football player character with everything else that you want, because I feel like that was overlooked so many times. Definitely the Rivera era. Because Rivera was always like, we know better. We're going to take a guy. He's got military parents. Check the box, right? He's high character guy. Check the box. Can he play? We think so, right? And it just led to them overdrafting players for the wrong reasons. And there was never like a contingency. It's like, this is our guy. Like, last year, Forbes wasn't the first choice. The first choice was they wanted the tackle. What was the tackle who got drafted? His name escapes me right now. Jones, I forget. But anyway, they wanted to draft him, got taken, ended up with Forbes, and I mean, that we know how that's going. Hopefully, we can resurrect his career. I don't know how well he's going to fit into Dan Quinn's scheme. He wants to play a lot of press man. I mean, and he is just so slight. I mean, he's a ball hawking corner, but he needs safety help. I just think that he's very, very far away from where he needs to be. And if he would have been drafted into a different team, maybe a different scheme, maybe would have had more success right away. Now, I mean, I do think that the coaching staff is going to get better out of him. I mean, the whole secondary, the coaching last year was absolutely horrendous. I mean, it was terrible.
It was abysmal.
But, but like I was saying, I mean, even going back to like a Scott McLuhan, we want football players. It's like, okay, well, we want football players, but we also want to embrace other things that are important. Like this regime is embracing analytics, which is important. I mean, when you don't do that and you just look at, he's a football player, whatever, that's how you end up with Fedarian Mathis. That's how you end up with Ryan Anderson. Fedarian Mathis is just the new Ryan Anderson. Like, that's just what it is. He came from Alabama. I mean, I remember when we drafted, helmet. Yeah, if you guys remember when we drafted Ryan Anderson, because we're just going to draft all the players from Alabama, right? Well, I mean, generally that's good policy, drafting players from Alabama, and look at Brian Robinson and other players from Alabama that have worked out for us, sure. But the knock on the whole Ryan Anderson thing was he had production, but he just did not have NFL measurables, and we see how that worked out. I mean, he was too slow, couldn't cover, and just, I mean, it never panned out, So
3 picks later in the second round, pick 53 overall, Ben Sinnott. Or Sinnott, I don't know how.
Ben Sinnott. Yes.
Sinnott. Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. It's tight end out of Kansas State. He is, by all accounts, what I've read and what I read on his measurables, he is the best blocking tight end in the draft, but also has hands and the size and the ability. He pretty much won't come in as tight end 1 because I think that's Zach Ertz just for now, but he's almost tight end 1B for want of a better term. I think he makes that room so much better. I think tight end we were lacking. Wanted a tight end in this draft. I thought we were probably going to end up with someone like Jatavion Sanders a little bit further down the road. Maybe a Wiley a little bit further on down the road from there. But to pick up Ben Sinnott at this time, wow. I mean, I was like, this excited me. I thought, what are we doing here? We're covering off all of the needs that we got with great football players.
And we're not reaching doing it.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, what were your thoughts on Sinnott?
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, what's your thoughts on Sinnott?
The Ben Sinnott thing, he's got great size. He can make the contested catch. He can block. I think that he's not going to be the starting tight end, but I feel like Cliff is probably going to have a whole lot of 2 tight end sets, and
Yeah,
then you can
definitely.
move him around. There's people saying, oh, he could be like a Chris Cooley type because he can play H-back, he can
Yep.
block, he can do all of those things. And yeah, no, I think we got really, really good value there. Now, make no mistake about it. I mean, this tight end class, not the deepest tight end class, so it was good that he was available there for us. I do think that he'll need some time to develop. Obviously, he's not going to be your number one tight end right from the spot. I think Zach Ertz is going to be a guy that Jaden Daniels can lean on, can be one of the safety valves along with Austin Eckler, who I think we're going to talk a whole lot more about. He's kind of getting sort of lost in the wash, kind of forgotten there, but I think he's going to play a big part, and he can be your quarterbacks. I mean, who's going to be your quarterback's best friends typically? Your running game, your running backs, yeah, and your
got to be a tight end
and
and
your
running
tight
backs,
end.
isn't it? Yeah.
Now, I mean, Ben Sinnott, he's not going to like wow you like like, but no, I think I say he can make the contested catch. He can do everything, and he can do everything good. So if he gets to a point where he can excel at certain things, that's great. But yeah, and I think that, like I said, he's good value there. He's going to be in a good tight end room, and he'll be able to block and learn. And hopefully, I mean, eventually, if everything goes to plan, he'll end up being your number one tight end and play for a long time. So yeah, if he
Let's
can
hope so.
be yeah, if he can be, everyone wants to make the 49ers comparisons because that's where Adam Peters
Yeah.
is from. But if he can be our George Kittle, not saying he's going to be George Kittle, but if he can be sort of our version of that, then I think that'd be great. And
I think talent spotting the way that Peters,
yeah,
Newmark, Dan Quinn, and the team have done it. I mean, if
mm-hmm.
you look at who they've got when he was in charge, because all said he was Adam Peters when he was over at the 49ers was doing from probably around 3 through to 7. So you're looking at Hufunga, you're looking at people like George Kittle, you're looking at Greenlaw, these sort of people who are coming out late. I mean, Kittle was a 5th rounder. If you can spot that talent and you can take it earlier, then this is where we're going. I think he's knocking it out of the park, especially these first 4 picks. People were even at the end of the second round, people were like, wow, this is ridiculous. Washington are knocking it out of the park. I mean, we'll get into the next pick in round 3, our first pick. I mean, my head was going to fall off, I think, if we didn't take an offensive lineman. I was just like, what are we doing here? I think, yeah, my head was tilting sideways at one point, thinking, what are we doing? But we picked Brandon Coleman, offensive lineman, listed as a tackle when he came out from TCU. 66th on Dane Brugler's board, the 9th best offensive tackle, but that was lumped in with guards as well. So there's a little bit more to like about here. And I think this is probably the point where we need to start talking about RAS scores as well. For those who don't know, Freddie, if you want to break down what RAS scoring is, that'll be good for us.
Sure. So RAS stands for Relative Athletic Score, and basically what it is it's similar to how scouts give prospect grades. So you have a grading scale that's 1 to 10, with 10 being the perfect prospect, but those grades are given based on a lot of things, but they're primarily based on players' performance, their production, what they do on the field, what they do when you analyze the tape, and that's how you wind up with wildly different grades from organization to organization, scouts, depending on what you want and all of that. Now, a relative athletic score, I mean, cuts through that. I mean, it's all quantitative, so it's based on actual numbers. So, relative athletic score is compiling all of the measurables that you would get from combine or pro days. So, everything from height, weight, hand size, arm length, vertical, 40 time, 3-cone, 10-yard split,
Broad jump, everything
broad,
else.
yeah, broad jump,
Bench press, the lot.
bench press, everything, right? Yeah. So, how they do it, Trivial Pursuit. Yeah. So you just take all of that, and then it gives you a number. So it's your overall grade of all that put into one. And the cool thing about it is we have the data going all the way back to 1987. So it's 37 years, right? Or however many. I can't do math right now, but let's just say 37 years, right? So we'll just say almost 40 years. And over that time, I mean, you can look at it's really cool. If you look at the relative athletic score for the class that we have, it's insane. So I saw a lot of people during the draft kind of criticizing Adam Peters and company. Well, what are we doing? I thought we were supposed to be paying attention to analytics, and we are. It couldn't be farther from the truth that we're not. We're doing our jobs there. Was it Eric Chen or the head of our Atlantic analytics department? Yeah. So
Eugene Chen,
Eugene Chen. There you go. I'm sorry. But if you look at what the team has done as far as RAS, every single player in the draft class, and this does not include Jaden Daniels or Johnny Newton because there wasn't enough there to give them a relative athletic score. But I mean, the both of them are so. Jaden Daniels has got to be super high on that list. Same thing with Johnny Newton. But we did not select a single player that did not fall into at least the top 16%. And keep in mind, this is over 37 years, top 16% of relative athletic score for any player. And I mean, some of these players, you want to talk about.
Brandon Coleman first. Yeah.
Yes, Brandon Coleman specifically in his ups. I really feel like Brandon Coleman could be the ace. You know, after all this is said and done, really end up being the guy who can come out and surprise you if we can develop the traits, because the traits are there. He's a bit of a project, of course. I mean, once you get into the mid second, even into the third, you're really starting to look at projects. Once you get out of the third, everyone's a project. But Coleman, and he's sort of the product of the tackle class being so talented. He's going to be a left tackle. I think that's what they got him for, and I think he has all of the traits to be able to do that. But his relative athletic score, he's in the top 0.5% relative athletic, and that is out of 1,583. Now, this is guards because this was done with him being projected as a guard. But even so, I mean, the guard to left tackle, looking at RAS, it's going to be pretty similar. He's still going to be probably in the top 1-2% if you go to the numbers, but he is seventh out of 1,583 players since 1987. That is just utterly insane. That is ridiculously
high. Did Sam Cosmi come out with a 10? I'm pretty certain he did.
So yeah, Sam Cosmi got up there pretty high.
This guy here in Brandon Coleman, 9.97. One thing I had seen, which I didn't realize, is he has longer arms than Trent Williams. He's bigger than every starting left tackle in the NFL last year. He's bigger than them in height, in width wise, when you take wingspan into account. Hasn't necessarily got the height that you would fully expect. I mean, was he 6'4" and a bit? Maybe you want to be around the 6'6", 6'7" mark. And his weight is there as well. I mean, the only thing for him to make sure that going outside, from what I've read, is he needs to just drop that anchor a little bit more to make sure he can sit on that anchor as a left tackle. And he needs to make sure his hand placement is a little bit lower. But these are coachable skills. These are things that you can work out if your O-line coach is pretty good, which, again, remains to be seen. We'll get on to Mr. Johnson. But I don't know about that. But in all seriousness, if I would be more happy if we had like Callahan still in charge. Do you know what I mean? When you look at an absolute offensive line guru. But yeah, I mean, a good pickup, and we needed an offensive lineman, and especially a left tackle. Do we go back into the market for a left tackle? The well's kind of running dry at the minute for a free agent. What are your thoughts on that, Freddie? Would you go out and sign a Bakhtiari if the medical checks out for a year?
Bakhtiari, no. no. Just the medical stuff scares the hell out of me.
I agree.
I really do believe that AP really thinks that Cornelius Lucas can start at the left tackle for you. Now, is he the long-term solution? No. Do you want him starting every game? Probably not. Can Coleman get up to speed quickly enough to step into that role? You know, I don't know, but I don't see I just don't see him going out and just, and just signing someone if the situation is not right. Now, I do think that, like I said, Cliff is going to run a lot of 2 tight end. We're going to have running back in there who can come over and chip. Jaden Daniels is pretty mobile. I don't think that. Don't get me wrong, left tackle is a need. Yes, it is, but I don't think it's so dire. It's not like we don't have anybody there. So again,
No,
I wouldn't be surprised if they did sign somebody, but I honestly would not be that surprised if they didn't.
I think when you've beefed up the interior as well with Biadish, with Algretti, Cosme's obviously sitting at that right hand guard side, going, well, you know what, he's a stalwart there for now. And then you also have Andrew Wiley, which worries me again because he is a turnstile. But at the same time, we're paying him money, so he is gonna start.
He can play better than I give him a little bit of credit. He's not a great player, but I think that we could get more out of them than we got last year. And if we can at least get him to be pretty decent to average, because last year he was terrible. He just was. He was terrible. But if he can be pretty good, we'll be all right.
I mean, Deluxe has put something in our chat here. He said he's got the athleticism of Trent, but does he have the mentality of the Silverback? Time will tell. Yeah,
I think that's a big thing with all of these players with this draft class is that they're all captains. They all seem to, for one, they all seem to love football. That gets lost a lot. We have this romantic idea that all these players in the league like love football and it was their dream and all this. And for a lot of them it is, but for a whole lot of them it's not. It's a job, and they were given these abilities and they're going to use them, but everyone plays the game for different reasons. Like I said, I think we've romanticized football a lot about players. I mean, it even goes to does he want to be here? Is he a team guy? Blah, 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 blah. You want higher motor guys. You want guys that are going to leave it all out there on the field. And that's what we got. I mean, that's what we brought in free agency. And that's what we're doing in the draft now. We're bringing in players who love the game, who want to win, who put the team above themselves, which is great. I mean, that's really what you need. And that's how you end up with so many players every draft you can look at, half the players in the first round don't work out, right? Yep. And then you always end up with players later in the draft that end up doing something, and you end up with all these undrafted players who end up doing something. The undrafted players have a chip on their shoulder, and undrafted players want to be here. They work hard because if it wasn't something that you really wanted for yourself, you would say, hey, I didn't get drafted. I'm just going to move on to the next phase of my life. But these undrafted free agents want to come in and compete for a spot, and they really, really grind, and they got to outwork other people. I mean, if you look at the all-time great players, you look at a guy like Jerry Rice, who is widely considered to be maybe the best player in NFL history. If you go back early in his career, I mean, his rookie season, he was not very good. He dropped a lot of passes, but he put in all the work. You go and look up what his training regimen is, all the things that he did to make himself right. Or even if you want to go to someone in Redskins history, go to Sean Taylor. And yes, Sean Taylor was great. He was gifted. He was special, right? But he put in the work. This is the guy who didn't drive his car to the facility. He ran home. Or Joe Gibbs would talk about after practice, all the players would be gone or be going into the locker room, whatever. And Sean's out there and he's running striders on the practice field, just running to keep himself right. You want players that are going to do that are willing to put in the work and willing to put in that on your own. And that's the great thing about Jaden Daniels. I mean, everyone's been talking about it at LSU. He got them to change the locks so he could get into the facility early in the morning to go over all this, doing the Oculus stuff. I mean, unbelievable. And he wasn't getting paid for that. You know what I mean? I mean, now you're getting paid, but yeah, I think it's great that you got players who are going to grind, who are going to work hard, and that makes the whole team better, because when you have players who are playing for their spot, then you have competition everywhere, and you have players that it doesn't allow you to just be complacent. And you don't have players who are on the field who aren't giving it 100%, and you get the hell out. So yeah, no, I love it.
Next one, we picked third round, our last third round pick at pick 100. I thought not a reach, but I thought this was probably a little bit high for where we took him. But I'm glad we took him. Luke McCaffrey, wide receiver out of Rice. Again, relative athletic score of 9.44. Former quarterback turned wide receiver. He's got them genes. His dad was good. His brother's amazing. If you're getting half the player with that work ethic that you're going to get of Christian, then hey, we've got ourselves a player here. Wide receiver 3, possibly 4 on the depth chart. What were your thoughts on picking up Luke McCaffrey?
Well, I mean, that goes to what we were just talking about, doesn't it?
Hey. That was good, by the way. That was good, by the way.
Do you know what I mean? But yeah, hey, he's got good. He's got the genes, right?
He's got the genes,
right? Yeah. Is he going to be his brother? No.
Let's be honest. No, he's not.
I don't know. But no, one thing that you can be sure of, yeah, he's going to come in. He's going to grind. I mean, he's got all the tools there. No one's going to outwork him. And I really thought that would be a strong possibility with the connections. I mean, Adam Peters with his connection to he worked for the Broncos organization. That's where Ed McCaffrey played really well, won 2 Super Bowls there. Christian McCaffrey, I mean, for what he is, I mean, he's the best running back in the league, isn't he? For everything that he can do. I mean, it's just he's amazing and he's so consistent. So Luke comes from a great football lineage, and yeah, I mean, he's going to come in, he's going to work hard. I mean, he's got physical tools. So even though some people might say, well, is a reach, was he drafted too high? Again, this goes back to, we don't know how our scouting department, everyone sort of views him and how they grade people. And I don't think that he was just drafted because his last name's McCaffrey. So yeah, I mean, to me, that's probably the biggest sort of like question mark that I have. That's the biggest, which way is this going to go? Right. With a player like that, you don't really have to worry about him being a bust because the expectations aren't that high. But yeah, I mean, we'll see if he can be a solid contributor. He's got some height, which is good. Our receiving core isn't particularly tall.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Did you hear, what was it called? It wasn't the Commander's Cabal. I can't remember what it was called. But basically, Adam Peters said on day 3, he said what we did was we got all the scouts around. We had a meeting with them, and we asked every single person in the whole draft room to stand
Commander's
on the table.
Caucus.
That's the word. Yes. Caucus. That's the word. So, I mean, yeah, I was like, that is pretty sweet. And it's something, obviously, he's introduced and brought from San Francisco where they go around. And maybe some of these players, when we get to the back end of this draft, maybe that's where they made a convincing argument and went, hey, let's see where they are on our big board. Let's have a look at what we've got and then go from there. So moving on then, in the 5th round, 139, Jordan McGee, linebacker out of Temple. I was very impressed with this pick. I thought, again, bit of a sleeper pick. I know he's slid up in draft boards. He's gone down on draft boards. For me, he was always around the 4th round, thereabouts. Linebacking core, my God. I mean, you had 2 coaches who were former linebackers, one being on the 85 Bears, who couldn't find the linebacker if you pointed one out in the supermarket. And now they're saying, well, hello, here we go. We've now probably got the linebacking core is probably one of our strengths now. When you look at it, Luvu, Wagner, now we've got McGee, you've got Jamin Davis still. I mean, we're not relying on, John Bostic and David Mayo anymore. This is ridiculous how good it's become. Jordan McGee can sit behind for a year. He is a true middle linebacker as well, which is what I've read up on. And people are saying already he's going to be an outstanding special teamer.
Yeah, he's going to find a home at special teams right away. That's really going to be his deal. He's not going to start this year. He may be in the rotation. Maybe spell Wagner or Luvu when they need a blow or whatever. But yeah, I mean, Wagner's on a 1-year deal. Luvu's going to be here for a while, and I hope that he ends up being what we think he can be. It looks like he's really hit the prime of his career and can really be as you said, be a stalwart here at linebacker. Yeah, and isn't it great that we have a regime that actually cares about linebacker? I mean, it's like I want to keep talking about the old regime, but Ron and company is like, fuck it, we don't need linebackers, you know. So,
Unbelievable, isn't it?
or we're going to take
John,
a lot.
John Taman's doing somersaults at the moment. Still, he hasn't come down from cloud 9 yet because they found.
Or we're not going to blitz our linebackers, but we're going to get linebackers that can't cover. It makes absolutely zero sense.
Crazy.
But, yeah, no, I think that they'll be used a lot better. McGee, yeah, right away he'll be on special teams, and if he can work himself into maybe eventually being a starter, being your middle linebacker, that's great.
2 more picks to go then. 5th round, pick 161, Dominique Hampton, free safety out of Washington. Again, high RAS score, 9.58. He's projecting as a team's 3rd safety if needed. Probably will work. He needs work on man coverage is what I've seen and what I've read. I've watched a bit of tape on him and I've read up on him. And yeah, he needs a bit of work to get to becoming a starting player within our rotation. Safety, again, Cam Curl's gone. We needed a safety as well. Brought in Jeremy Chin. Is he really out and out there? Is he going to be just a box safety? We don't know. We don't know where these players are going to play. Is it that star position as they're talking about? I'm not sure. I mean, Dominic Hampton, what were your thoughts on this pickup in the back end of the 5th round?
Yeah, I think he was good value there in the 5th. You look at the safety room. I love Derek Forrest. I think that Derek Forrest has only scratched the surface of where he could go. I would think that the coaching staff likes him as well. I think he's good there at free safety. I mean, pretty much. I mean, you got Derek Forrest and Jeremy Reeves, who is amazing. He's made it through 3 different.
Regimes. Yeah, 3 different regimes.
That really speaks to Jeremy. I mean, he's just fantastic. He's so much more than a great story. He's a great story. He's a great player. He's like I was talking about earlier. He's one of those players that you definitely want. And he's a
all pro Revo.
Oh yeah, 100%. He's the best special teamer in the league. I mean, bar none. But getting back to Dominique Hampton, no, I think he's got the skill set that this coaching staff wants and what they can develop. Jeremy Chin, like you said, he's on a 1-year deal. Whether he sticks, I don't know. He might just be the stopgap guy. And Derek Forrest, they did not draft. Quan Martin, they did not draft. True. Once you get past there, Percy Butler. Percy Butler is an afterthought. Percy Butler might get cut. I really think Percy Butler might get cut coming in preseason. So you don't really hear about him, but hey, you don't really hear about him on the field either. So yeah, to me, he's just kind of an afterthought. And again, this is them looking forward, not just looking at this year, looking at the next year and the next year. So looking at all that. So yeah, no, I mean, he's definitely he's going to be a backup this year. And like you say, anyone who's drafted after the second round, 3rd round, we'll see where they all work out. I mean, to me though, if he just ends up being a quality depth player, getting him there in the 5th round, I mean, that's good value right there.
Agreed. Our last pick then in 7th round, pick 222, Javonte Jean-Baptiste, an edge out of Notre Dame, as we call it over this side of the pond. 9.22 RAS score. Again, high motor energy guy. He will sit in this edge rotation. Not sure how much of the field he's going to see. Well, edge, again, couple of edges we brought in on 1-year deals. Cleveland Farrell, Fowler Jr., Dorrance Armstrong's obviously going to be the starter immediately. Yeah. FA's coming back from a broken leg. Yeah. You've still got Andre Jones. You've still got KJ Henry to rotate in there. And now we've got Javonte Jean-Baptiste. So interesting one again. I know where was he at before Notre Dame? He was at a big school as well. Was it Ohio State? I think he was at Ohio State for about 3 years. So yeah, starter, obviously, again, and a captain over there. So this is we're getting a theme here. High RAS scores, high character guys, great athletes, big, who want to play football. Again, he may not make it. We don't know. 7th round, it's tough. It's tough when you're at the bottom of the barrel scraping. And we'll get onto a few undrafted free agents in a minute. But yeah, I mean, good pickup for me. It makes that edge rotation a little bit more solid. If he sees some snaps, great. Let's just see how he goes in preseason. For me, that's where we need to see what we've got.
Yeah, I mean, he's got physical tools. He's definitely a project, and then we'll see if if he plays well enough, or if the coaching staff sees enough in him to say, hey, yeah, we're going to admit to this, being a long-term project. The good thing is that we do have some quality depth there at edge. So if you just want to work him in as a rotational player, which, I mean, that's probably where he would start if he makes the final roster. If he could end up on the practice squad, don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Dorrance Armstrong, and then after that, you kind of got to look at FA, because he had the injury, but then Dante Fowler, KJ Henry, Cleveland Farrell. What do all of these players, even FA and Dorrance Armstrong, what do they all have in common? Is what I was alluding to earlier. They're all going to grind. They're all going to play hard, because nothing is promised with any of these guys. You know what I mean? Especially, I think Dante Fowler is kind of the sleeper a little bit here. Remember, he was a former first-round pick. I mean, so was Cleveland Farrell, and neither one of them lived up to the expectations. But I really feel like they can thrive here. And the thing about Dan Quinn is Dan Quinn's going to put people in all kinds of different positions, and I love that. Like what he does with Micah Parsons. Now, we don't have Micah Parsons, but Deron Payne towards the end of last year, he lined up at times at defensive end.
He did.
They're gonna move them all around, and then you have this nice piece in the middle. You got Johnny Newton. You could go with a 5-man front. You can you can move all these players around. You can rush some defensive ends inside. You can take your D tackle, move them outside. I think they're going to run a lot of stunts. They're going to do a lot of stuff like that. It's going to look very, very different. For all of the talk in the previous regime about being aggressive and all of that, I mean, they just felt like, hey, we can rush our 4 and we're going to drop our linebackers, even though we don't have linebackers who can cover back and cover. Just try to win that way, but I don't think they're going to do that. And then the other good thing is they'll be able to rotate a lot, try to keep those guys fresh. So yeah, I mean, and at the same time, you have Mike Sandstrill. And you have your safeties. Your safeties are in your hybrid linebackers.
And then you've got Luvu at linebacker, who always likes to.
No idea where it's going. And not to mention, I mean, Jamin Davis does best when he just gets to straight ahead, when he just gets to blitz. I mean, he's like my wife when he gets in space, he just gets lost. But I mean, you put him in a straight line coming downhill. He's pretty fucking tough. But
I think so too.
But you move all these guys around. You don't know where it's coming. You don't know where it's going. You know where it's coming from. It's one of those things. It's like that scene in Rush Hour 2 where Chris Tucker is in the middle of the massage parlor and he gets kicked in the face. He's like, "Which one of y'all hit me?"
I like that. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, after the draft was over, Freddie, we signed quite a lot of undrafted free agents. I'm not going to go through every single one of them because we'll be here forever. I'll list them all. And I'll go through the ones that we've paid.
Can I just tell you which one's my favorite first?
Go on, man. Go on then.
My favorite. And look, I don't know shit about these undrafted free agents, with the exception of the heartthrob quarterback. I know you can talk about heartthrob quarterback.
Yeah, my wife was quite impressed with that.
He's got he probably won't make this team, might not even make the practice squad, but there's always I love looking at the best names. In
I know where you're going.
You know where I'm going with this. Listen,
I just want that jersey, man. Just give me that jersey.
Marcus Rasemi Jack Saint. That is
I thought you were going to go Cole. I thought you were going to go Colson
Yankoff. Are they even going to be able to fit it on there? Rasemi Jack Saint.
I mean, that's just going to go Colson Yankoff. That's where I thought you were.
I thought I was going to go with the Yankoff. No, I love long hyphenated last names.
Well, do you know what the fun? Here's a funny stat not a stat, but a funny thing I found out. He was rated on Dane Brugler's wide receiver list as the 48th wide receiver this year, out of 172 who were graded.
He is just such a project. He is just such a project.
I read up on him, and weirdly enough, this is a strange thing that he had. He was born with 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes, and then he had them removed as a baby. So funny fact, but there you go.
Maybe should have kept that 6th finger.
And when the reason he's got a hyphenated name, his actual name is Roseme. And the Jack Saint bit comes from when he was at high school. The head coach was his name. I can't remember his first name, but he was Mr. Jack Saint. And the mother his wife was like the team mom. And then when it came to college and he was going to college, he was getting scouting at college offers. His mum had passed away, and his dad disappeared, so he couldn't get signatures to physically get into college to sign the paperwork. So they adopted him, and that's why he took that name on. So there you go.
That is some serious digging and work there, Mr. Scott Hartley. Scotty, wow,
So, yeah.
man. Hey, I got it.
So I do.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
So that's why. And then he went to Georgia. So yeah, man.
Story. He was a great player at Georgia, but this is the NFL. He's really got to work on so many things. He's got to work on getting in and out of his breaks. His route running is not great. My biggest issue with him is I just don't know if he's got the speed to be able to play wide receiver at this level.
He's got the hands, but he hasn't necessarily got the speed. The three that I want to go through then that we've talked about here, I mean, we'll list them all off, but I'll go through the three that we've paid a bit of money for. So cornerback, Chiggy Newsome is, I think, how he's pronounced, from CSU. We gave him a $50,000 signing bonus and a $300,000 base. He is listed down as being a rotational press man corner. Half the league wanted him apparently. So yeah, at bottom of the roster spot, he's going for it. I wish him the best at training camp, but man, that's a lot to pay out for as a signing bonus. Obviously, the contract doesn't stick as a base because obviously if you cut, that's it. But $50K signing bonus is a lot of money to give away. But I suppose if half the league is after this guy, you're strike while the iron's hot. So, we paid up, and he's coming into training camp. Another one, as you mentioned, quarterback Sam Hartman out of Notre Dame, $20K signing bonus, $225K base. Running back Austin Jones, USC, same contract again, $20,000 signing bonus, $225 base. And then the only other one on exactly the same contract again, $20K and $225, was safety Tyler Owen out of Texas Tech, who is the guy who does not believe in space. He's a flat earther, and wow, I mean, come on, man. But he has speed to burn. He had a perfect 10 RAS score. Perfect 10. So this kid is clearly an athlete, no matter what way you look at it. Apparently, he is down as being a special teams ace. And out of the safeties on the entire draft board, I'm going off Dane Brugler again, off the beast, he was rated as the 13th best safety in the entire draft, and he went undrafted. So it just shows you that obviously there's a lot of prospects out there. I think in his board it was like 578 prospects or something were looked at overall. This kid, he's got a future. He's got a future in the game. Whether it's with us or not, I don't know. But he's going to really, really have to work hard to get on this team, probably as a special teamer again.
Yeah, I mean, all the undrafted free agents, you're looking at practice squad prospects. Yeah. I mean, if you got to really, really play well to work your way onto the roster. But that's not saying that it can't be done.
There's always one or two. Yeah, there's always one or two every year, who do that. Yeah.
Well, there always is. There always is. I think people need to pump the brakes on it. Say it with me. Sam Heartthrob. Okay?
Yeah.
That's
QB3?
He's dreamy, ain't he?
He is. But, my wife was quite impressed. But
he doesn't have much of an arm. But
no.
Would
you take him over Driscoll now?
I just feel like they're doing their thing as far as they're bringing in their guys, and I think with a quarterback like him, he ain't gonna be the backup. He might be the backup to the backup. I think he's gonna be your scout team quarterback. That's just what he's gonna be. And they've
Jake Fromm.
I'm sure they like him. I'm sure he's a player where Jake Fromm's out of here.
He's gone.
Yeah, he's going back to State Farm. So
exactly.
I just think that's them bringing in their people. The one thing that I agree with you on, or that what I want to talk about with the undrafted free agents, as far as paying is, great thing is that Adam Peters, he's got the backing of the organization, and he's gonna go get his guys. Yeah. It's like, and if he's got to pay some extra money to go get his guys, hey, if you see something in him, which obviously he does, and even if it's one of those situations where it ends up ends up not being what we thought or ends up not going to work out, it's fine. But he's going to throw he's going to throw as much at the wall as he can and see if it's going to stick. And, he's not going to be like, oh, shucks, I'm out of paint. No, he's going to go buy himself some more fucking paint, throw it at the wall, So, yeah. So, I think I love the approach, how they approached the undrafted free agents, same as how they approached the draft. There's going to be great competition there. With the type of culture, I know we hate that word culture, but the type of culture that this coaching staff is going to bring is going to be great. I think that we're finally going to see some actual real competition. I think part of that is the fact that we need it, and the other part is that it's the only way you can go there. There has to be competition because nothing's set in stone. No one's job is secure. Absolutely nobody. Nobody on the field. It was say maybe Jaden Daniels, but when you're a quarterback who's drafted high, maybe your job is safe for a year and a half before the team cuts bait on you, because that's just where we are now in the NFL.
It's just a brutal sport.
Was tweeting out yesterday, because that's my thing, or Xing, whatever the hell we call it now, right? Talking about quarterbacks being overdrafted and all that kind of thing. And it's the way that the league values the position and the evolution of that position and how teams look at it. The days of you drafting a quarterback and him sitting and learning and then preparing, that's out of there. You got to produce, and you got to produce right away. And teams look at it like, hey, we're going to draft a quarterback. If he doesn't work out in 2 years, we're on to the next one. And they're going to keep, like I said, you're just going to have teams that just, it's like the lottery. They're just going to try and try and try. And that's why you have all these quarterbacks being drafted so high. That's why you had 3 quarterbacks in a row and all this. And quarterbacks are just going to be overdrafted big time. You got to think, there wasn't another quarterback drafted out of the first round until the 5th round is when Spencer Rattler was taken. That's crazy. Where you used to have quarterbacks in the 2nd, 3rd, whatever, you're just not going to have that, because the thinking is that, quarterback is the number one position. It's the one that you have to hit on. And if you don't take one high, you're not going to get one. That's why we didn't end up with the situation that we thought we might be looking. That's why the Patriots didn't trade back. That's why the Vikings weren't able to
trade up. Yeah.
That's why so the problem is, because you're looking at these teams like, can we trade back and pick up some more picks? But if you don't hit on quarterback, you ain't got nothing. It doesn't matter if you hit on anything else. That's just where we are now. So the Patriots, they had to take Drake May. Even if, let's say they wanted to take JJ, which they didn't, because if they did, they would have just took him. But you're thinking, we can trade back. No, you can't trade out of there, because the team that's coming up might want him. If you don't stay there and take your quarterback and you roll the dice on trading back, for one, your guy might not be there. And if you do have a guy, you just take him. That's why if our guy was JJ, we would have just taken him. We're not going to risk it and trade back. Then you get jumped by another team who's desperate.
Correct.
You can't.
The Raiders, whoever it may be. Yeah.
The thing is, you can't move back that far. You can't move back one spot, not in the position that we were in here. And then I think what really set everything for a loop, and I think it's like the butterfly effect. This has affected the rest of the whole first round, was the fact that the Atlanta Falcons came in and drafted Michael Penix. Nobody expected that. There's always some big surprise there, but I did not think that was going to be it. But
I didn't.
Everyone, it's kind of like in March Madness when one of the 16 seeds, beats a really high seed, and everyone just throws their bracket away. That's what it was in the first round when the fucking Atlanta Falcons drafted.
It's normally the Raiders. To be fair, the Raiders are normally the ones who just go,
Raiders,
we'll pick someone.
This is the other thing too. If the Raiders were thinking they might come out, that the Raiders just got screwed. They're like, we just got, So, what are you gonna do?
But Freddie, thank you, mate. We sat down for just over an hour here debating the draft. I appreciate your time. Thank you for being on with me, buddy. It's always great to see you back on the podcast game. Obviously, I've been on here with Scouse for a while now. You were one of our first guests, so honestly, we appreciate you being out there. Rolling back the years here from the HTWR days with Maddie Jane. Fantastic pod. Still got your T-shirt in my wardrobe. And then going on to the bunker, and now Hot Take Freddie himself on X, posting. His fingers are on fire, constantly posting out hot takes. But yeah, man, where can people find you? if they want to obviously follow you. And will you be back in the podcast game soon? I don't know.
Everyone wants to ask me that question, man. To answer your question about the podcast thing, I'm happy where I'm at right now. Never say never, but I'm happy with where I'm at right now. So, but yeah, you can find me on Twitter, or you can find me on X, and it's at Hot Take Freddie, and it's Freddie spelled the right way. It's Freddie. And I say Freddie as in Mercury, right? Yeah, but you can find me at Hot Take Freddie. Yeah, you can see all of my takes. Sometimes they're my actual opinions. Sometimes it's sarcasm. Sometimes I just play devil's advocate. But yeah, no, 100% Commanders content all the time. Thoughts, opinions, and a lot of I like posting a lot of. I post a lot of videos, both old school Redskin stuff, and then this whole week. I'll be posting all of my stuff on Jaden Daniels, and then once we get past that, I'll be putting out stuff about all of the draft picks and doing all that. So I don't get into like the film breakdowns and all that stuff. That's more like Adam Aniba, type of shout out
Kyle
to
and Adam.
yeah,
shout out to Adam as well, man.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and you're making me feel old because we're talking about like like OGs of the pod game, because I remember years ago, like when Matty Jane and I started, when we were doing HT We Are, and thanks for shouting out the old podcast. I can't believe you still have a t-shirt. Still got the t-shirt, but at that time it was like Burgundy Zone, us, Big Doug came along around that time, and then there was just a sea of all these other, and at that time Andy Burrows was running DC Tweet Team podcast, and then obviously we ended up doing the Bunker, and then now you have, there's so many great podcasts. You got Tay and Todd, and this is just more than I can.
Steve Lim, love Steve Lim.
Steve Lim, Steve, just a sweetheart of a guy. Everybody, George Carmi.
Great guy.
Yeah, we have such a great community here.
We do. We really do. Deuce and his spaces and the red zone in the lab stuff. Unbelievable.
And even the YouTube guys. If you haven't, if you guys haven't checked out On the Warpath, Corey Sanchez, he's great.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Rio Robinson and his stuff. That speaks for itself. Rio. And
Rico,
then
Street Schools.
I remember when Josh Taylor was
he's been out there as well.
Just another guy with a podcast. And now he's on Bleacher Report. He's at the Senior Bowl. Yeah, he's big time. He's big time. But yeah, no, it's great. And yeah, it's always fun, and it's an honor to come on all these. It's humbling when people talk about the old podcast and they really love it, especially everybody loves Matty Jane. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that's us for the week. We will be back on tomorrow with our usual weekly podcast. But can't thank you enough, Freddie, for joining us, and we'll catch you again soon. Cheers, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, Scotty.